everyone. I'm Andy.
And I'm Mark, exhausted.
And this is Strange Stuff Podcast. And we're here for part 2 of the wonderful Mutiny on the Bounty.
Mutiny on the Bounty.
But why are you exhausted?
Because I've been working since 7 o'clock this morning.
Working? When you say working?
Building. Putting a roof on my garden shed.
Oh, still on the garden shed.
Well, still on it. I haven't done much in the last couple of weeks because I've been helping other people. But and it's going to be, 28, 29 degrees. So that's why I wanted to postpone it from 10 o'clock so I could get as much done before the intense heat of the day kicks in.
Have you been treating yourself to a little Pimm's every afternoon?
Funnily enough, I was at the village party on Saturday evening, and I normally have a little Pimm's bar that I set up for those that are interested.
Right.
So we consumed 2 bottles, which I thought was quite reasonable.
How many people?
How many people drank Pimm's, or how many people at the party?
How many people at the party?
I'd guess about 30.
And only 2 bottles of Pimm's?
Yeah, but there was only about 10 of us drinking Pimm's.
10 people only did 2 bottles? What kind of parties do you go to?
But we were celebrating the village's 30th birthday, so it had champagne, beer, we'd had everything. This was just at the tail end of the evening.
So until 30 years ago, there was nobody living there?
No, of course there was someone living there, but there wasn't a village committee.
Oh.
So the village committee, if that's what you call it in English, is that what you call it?
I don't know. Is that like a fucking housing association?
Not really. That sounds a bit American. No. It's a village committee. It is actually, yes. So that was good fun.
Did you meet any nice chicks?
This is my village, Andy.
Yeah. Rule number 1, always shit on your own doorstep.
Yeah, exactly. Have I mentioned I've got a young couple who've moved in next door?
No.
When I say young, they're in their probably 30s, I would guess.
Right.
But I say moved in. It's their summer house, but it's nice to have a young family nearby.
Oh no, I don't like that. I don't fucking like people having summer houses. Taking up space that people could actually live in.
But this is this is a summer house area. I know what you mean. Solar, of course it is.
Yeah, but I mean,
actually not so much these days. I reckon 25 years ago, there was maybe 50-50. And now I would definitely say it's sort of 70-30, maybe even 80-20. Most people live here permanently.
Just a quick question. Have you got anything running in the background?
Have I got anything running in the background? Why, is it slow?
Yeah, it keeps sort of freezing the audio.
No, Outlook wasn't running. I've closed that. I don't actually. Outlook, no. The only thing running is this.
Just press Control Alt Delete quickly.
What? While we're recording?
Yeah.
You sure?
Yes, quickly if you can, then we won't be doing it for long.
Now what?
Control End Task Manager.
Yes.
And on the top it says how many apps are running.
1, 2,
Okay.
2.
What are they?
Microsoft Edge, which I don't want. That's taking up 48% of the CPU.
Right. Highlight that one.
Highlight.
Yeah, just click on it, left click. And towards the top in the middle, it says end task. Click that. Are you there now?
Yes.
Were you actually connected on Microsoft Edge?
I don't have a clue. How do I know what Microsoft Edge is?
It's a browser.
Oh, is it?
Internet browser. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. So
when you connect to to this thing, are you on Google or are you on Microsoft?
I don't know, actually. It's a good question. It's sort of a green and blue circle.
That's Microsoft Edge.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, so you just disconnected yourself. Okay. Well, that's
Look, I'm just following instructions. You're the bloody computer whiz.
Yeah, but I'm only giving you instructions on information that's provided, and you provided me with information that I don't bloody well want that.
Idiot.
One of us.
So, what was I talking about? Village parties. Oh, yes, you don't like summer houses.
No, I don't. I don't like the idea that people take beautiful places to live in and stay there for 3 weeks of the fucking year.
What's that?
Who is jw.org?
Who is that?
How would I know?
It was stuck through my letterbox.
And that's all it says?
With a handwritten note.
Hey, hope everything is good with you and your family. It's all gone blurry now. I can't read.
Exactly. So a handwritten note, JW stands for Jehovah's Witness.
Oh, fucking hell.
Yep. They knocked on my door.
Handwritten or is it
No, it
clearly
is.
Printed?
No, it isn't.
Is
It's
it clearly
handwritten.
Printed?
No, it's handwritten. I thought that, but then I looked on the underside and you can see where they put the pen mark, the indentation from the pen. So they must have some poor junior slave writing out these things.
Fuck's sake.
Suhey. What's Suhey? Suhey. I can't believe these religious extremists are allowed to carry on. I thought they would have closed all that lot down.
I mean, they're not violent, but they just assault your very moral fibre.
What do you mean they're not violent? They're the ones that don't give dying children blood transfusions. You can't get much more violent than that.
Is it?
It is.
That's just basic child abuse.
What do you mean? It's passive murder, neglect, child neglect. It's as good as violence.
Well, every religion has its own fucking foibles.
Well, I would agree with that. Generally speaking, not killing children, though.
Yeah, but they don't actually kill the children. They allow them to fucking die. It's not the same.
I think we could have a lengthy discussion about that. I think it's exactly the same.
Bear in mind that in their twisted beliefs, they're actually doing the kid a favour because they're going to God.
Is that what their reasoning is? They're accelerating their journey to heaven.
Yes. God wants them there quickly. Why should they get in the way of that?
Well, why don't they just all kill themselves then?
Oh, no, it's got to be God's choice, not yours.
Andy,
you don't get to tell God when you arrive.
Andy, are you a bit of a closet JW?
Let me tell you the good news.
Well, there's again, there's proof that you are, because isn't there a magazine called Good News?
Yeah, no, it's called The Lighthouse.
Oh, is it The Lighthouse? All right.
But they always, when they knock on your door, if you're foolish or drunk enough to answer, they always say, "Good news," and you're supposed to go, "What's the good news?" Jesus loves you. Oh fuck! I thought it was the lottery.
They always dress smartly and carry nice little black satchels with them.
I had a couple of Mormons knock on my door when I was living in Crouch End,
Mormons? Which ones are they? They're polygamists, aren't they?
Yes, the Seventh-day Adventists, basically. But now this was the days when I used to be in the clubs till 6 o'clock in the morning, and go home for an after party with a few people, sleep for an hour, and then get up. And it was on one of these mornings, so I'm still drunk. I was a smoker in those days as well, so I've got a cigarette on. The house is a mess. Like, there's a knock on the door, and there's these two lovely young girls outside. I was about 30 years old, so I was hot and horny. And I've gone, well, hello. We've gone, hi, have you got a few minutes? We'd like to talk to you. And I've gone, yeah, of course, come in.
No, and they came into your flat.
Yeah, we're sat in my living room. There's fucking ashtrays stacked up with joints and cigarette ends. There's beer cans, Jack Daniel bottles. It looked like a den of iniquity, and it was a den of iniquity. And these poor girls, they wanted to show me a video and everything. They had to sit there and go through that whole presentation.
They gave you a video?
I can tell that they weren't.
What sort of video?
They weren't comfortable. About the life of a Mormon, about being a Seventh-day Adventist. It was, I mean, to be honest, it was a good marketing ploy, because if you're going to advertise a place that says it's okay to marry more than one chick, send a couple of chicks out to recruit.
But that can't be the case in the UK. You can't marry more than one woman in the UK.
Well, you don't marry them in the UK. You go over to fucking Utah.
Utah, is that where they will live?
That's Mormon Central, yeah.
All right.
That's their place.
Good on them. Well done.
I mean, I don't understand it myself, because everyone I know who's ever been married has been miserable for the rest of their life. Why would you want two of those?
To be doubly miserable.
Yeah, exactly. How can that be a happy situation for?
I don't think they just have one extra. I think they've got a whole team of them, don't they?
Well, it depends. It depends on the hierarchy. You have to be promoted within the organisation to qualify for more wives. The leader of the Mormons, and they have different divisions, like they have sects within the sect. You little fucker. Sorry, Ronnie's throwing stuff off the desk. They have sects within the sects. There's been a few decent documentaries about them. We should go into it one day, actually. There was one guy who was just picking kids from the various families on his compound and choosing to marry them. He was in his 70s. He was marrying fucking 12-year-olds, a little cunt. And the families were all honoured because their child was chosen. Fuck me, they're mental.
Nutters. Of course, talking about paedophiles, you got this whole Epstein thing blowing up.
There's nothing going to blow up. Those papers will never, ever, ever come to see the light of day while Donald Trump is alive, because his name is all over them.
Yeah, but they'll just... I think what they're doing at the moment is busily redacting any reference to Donald Trump.
No, even if it's redacted, the point is those papers are already actually out there. You can find them.
Really?
Yes.
On the dark web?
Yes. Not even on the dark web. You can find them if you look hard enough. And the names on there are quite incredible. I mean, obviously the Duke and Duchess of York are both on there. The list of passengers on his private jet going to and from that island goes back years, and all the names are... I mean, it's not actually a client list as such, but it's a list of who was where, when, who with, basically.
So hang on a second. You mean Fergie went out there with Andrew?
Yes, but that could have been just an ordinary holiday weekend. Who knows? As I say, it's not a client list. It's a passenger manifest.
But anyway, it seems to be blowing up because it's splitting the Republican Party.
Well, they've all voted, saying it was 100% vote, saying that it's not in anybody's interest to publish those papers.
When did they vote that?
I was in a group last night playing Star Citizen with a few Americans, and they were discussing it. And apparently everyone on the Republican side has said, nah, pointless. We're not gonna.
No, I don't think that's right, actually, Andy, because there's been a number of Republicans. Marjorie Taylor Greene, that lunatic woman, has been pretty adamant that she wants to see the evidence.
It doesn't matter. They were talking about the big, beautiful bill as well, and he was saying that the tactic they used for that was basically keep it on the table until it gets voted in. Just keep it open until people say, "Oh, for fuck's sake, all right then." And that's exactly what they've done. They just left it open.
The people that you're gaming with, are they on the? I assume they're not billionaires or millionaires. I don't know why I assume that.
But they are fully grown adults. Star Citizen isn't a game for kids. It's
no. But so do you think that they regret Trump being in power?
Oh, they're not Trump supporters.
Right. Yeah.
Actually, there are a couple of Trump supporters in the groups that I play with, which is quite amusing. I mean, we get all sorts from all walks of life.
Yeah.
It's good.
Yeah. Anyway, so that's going on in the background. What else has happened this week? Wimbledon. I don't even know who won.
I don't even know who plays anymore.
No.
I'm so out of touch.
I'll tell you, I lost interest when Federer and Nadal. I've never liked that Djokovic fellow.
I mean, for me,
they're all Russians or Chinese or something.
The only time it was really interesting for me was in the days of McEnroe and Borg.
Yeah.
And people like that, because they had personalities. These fucking non-entities who come along now, and they've got no personality. They've got nothing to offer except the skill.
No, but it's a very good point, because unfortunately, you've got to train 12 hours a day to get to the level of Wimbledon these days. And of course, if you train 12 hours a day, you haven't got a personality anymore, because all you do is train.
McEnroe had a great personality.
No, but in those days, you could get away with it. I mean, it's like when James Hunt was world champion Formula One driver. He was partying all the time.
He lived in Wimbledon. I saw him walking his dogs one day on the common.
Well, you know, he was a real man's man character.
Yeah,
the famous quote. What's it
changed for the worse?
What was the famous when who was that F1 commentator interviewed him? That old boy. Oh, I can't.
Stuart Hall?
No, Stuart Hall. No. Anyway, they said, James, what do you rate as the best breakfast before a Formula One race? And he's being interviewed by the BBC, and he literally said sex.
Yay, good boy.
And he was a real ladies' man. He had a nightclub somewhere that he used to go and just cherry pick these women.
It was probably Annabelle's.
No, it wasn't called Annabelle's. Oh, I don't have my phone with me, so I can't do any fact checking. Oh, hang on. Can I open another window, or is that likely to screw everything up?
No, you can open another window.
Ooh. Hang on. Are you still there, Andy?
Yes, I'm still here. You know, you can have two windows open at once.
All right, here we go. So, James, what was his name? James Hunt. James Hunt nightclub. Will that bring me an answer?
Yes, it will, because this is Google. You'll have to be quick, though, because people are already switching off.
No, can't remember. I can't find it. I'm not smart enough. Right.
So anyway, I think we should get on with our story, because when we left,
I'm just closing down these extra tabs because I don't want to strain the computer. Ooh,
when we left it last week,
picture mode closed.
Oh my God!
Carry on. I even know what we're talking about.
We're talking about the Mutiny on the Bounty. For fuck's sake!
But I remember.
We spent a few months on we we spent a few months on Tahiti, and it got a bit tense with people having venereal diseases and people getting punished for transgressions, and everybody getting a bit laid back, fat and lazy, if you remember.
I do. So, some of them actually stayed on the island or tried to.
Well, yeah, they did. A couple of them did run away. They got dragged back and flogged. So from the February onwards, 1789, I guess, the pace of work increased, and they actually got more than 1,000 breadfruit plants potted and carried onto the ship, where they filled the great cabin. And the ship had been overhauled for the long homeward voyage, in many cases by men who regretted the departure and the loss of that easy life with the Tahitians.
So did they do some little
Captain
sabotages?
Bligh was impatient to be away, but he failed to anticipate how his company would react to the severity and the austerity of sea life after 5 beautiful hedonistic months in Tahiti. The work was done by the 1st of April in 1789, and 4 days later, after a nice kiss on the cheek from King Taina and his queen, the Bounty left the harbour. Now, in their Bounty histories, both Richard Huff and Alexander maintained that the men were not really at a stage even close to mutiny, but they were very sorry to leave Tahiti. The journal of James Morrison, who was the boatswain's mate, supports this. And in the events that followed, Huff suggests that they were determined in the 3 weeks following the departure, when Bligh's anger and intolerance reached paranoid proportions.
Why?
Well, young Christian Fletcher was a particular target, always seeming to bear the brunt of the captain's rages, and unaware of the effects of his behaviour on his officers and crew, Bligh would forget these displays instantly and attempt to resume normal conversation. It just sounds like he fucking snapped.
Maybe.
Honestly.
I wonder if he was unwell.
Well,
maybe he'd eaten too many breadfruit.
There was no diagnoses in those days. So anything, he could have been fucking paranoid schizophrenic for all we know.
Yeah.
He just could have been a nut.
Nut.
So on the 22nd of April, 1789, the Bounty arrived at Numuka in the Friendly Islands, which is now known as Tonga.
Never been
intending to pick up wood, water. No, I've never been there. Intending to pick up wood, water and further supplies on the final scheduled stop before the Endeavour Strait. Bligh had visited the island with Captain Cook, and he knew that the inhabitants could behave somewhat unpredictably.
Ooh, that's dangerous.
So, especially in Tonga, where I believe that unpredictable means you look quite tasty.
Stabby.
And eaty.
Why do you say that? Why do you think they're cannibals on Tonga?
Of course they were.
Ridiculous.
Everyone, we were all cannibals once.
No.
Oh, yes. We were.
No.
Before we learned that other animals tasted good. Everyone used to eat the forbidden fruit of the dead. And that's what the forbidden fruit is in Adam and Eve, by the way. It's not a fucking apple. It's a chunk of my inner thigh.
Where do you get this bollocks? Never in my life have I ever heard that Genesis story of Adam and Eve relates to cannibalism. Well, who ate who? Who ate who? Did Eve have a bit of nibble? Had a bit of nibble on Adam?
No, I mean, I would imagine it was the other way around. Because I mean, I've met some girls that I could definitely take a chunk out of. Well, Bligh had visited the island with Cook, as I say, and he put Christian in charge of the watering party, and he equipped him with muskets. But at the same time, he ordered that the muskets should be left on the boat rather than carried ashore, which is, what's the point of that? So Christian's party was harassed and threatened continually, but they weren't able to retaliate, having been denied the use of arms. He returned to the ship with his task incomplete and was cursed by Bligh as a damned cowardly rascal. Further disorder ashore resulted in the thefts of a small anchor, for which Bligh further berated Christian and Fryer. In an attempt to recover the missing property, Bligh briefly detained the island's chieftains on the ship, but to no avail. When he finally gave the order to sail, the anchor had not been restored.
This was a mini anchor. It wasn't the main ship anchor, I assume.
I'm guessing it must be. I mean, those are big and heavy fuckers.
Exactly.
By the 27th of April, Christian was in a state of despair. He was depressed and brooding. His mood was made even worse when Bligh accused him of stealing coconuts. Coconuts, no less, from the captain's private supply. Now, I thought they were cramped quarters that these guys were living in. How have you got the room to have a private supply of coconuts?
Yeah, but, you know, the captain's quarters, I think they were quite generous, actually. Didn't you tell us how generous they were?
Yeah, but don't forget the captain's cabin was being used as a greenhouse. He was in a storeroom, basically.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Oh.
So, hang on a second. If the captain's cabin was full of these breadfruit plants, what was in the hold?
Supplies for the men, I guess, for their voyage.
But these are cargo ships. Normally they're full of cargo, spices.
No, the Bounty wasn't a cargo ship.
You're right.
We went through this in part one.
You're right. It wasn't.
It was a small warship.
Yeah, you're right.
The smallest of the warships.
Yep.
Now, Bligh punished the whole crew for the theft of his coconuts by, and this is what you should never ever do when you're in charge of a ship,
and that is
stopping their rum ration.
Ooh.
And reducing their food by half. Feeling that this position was now intolerable, Christian considered constructing a raft with which he could escape to an island and just take his chances with the natives. He may have acquired some wood for this purpose from Purcell. In any event, his discontent became common knowledge among his fellow officers, and two of the young gentlemen, George Stewart and Edward Young, urged him not to desert. Young assured him that he would have the support of almost everyone on board if he was to seize the ship and depose Bligh.
Oh.
Stewart told him that the crew were ripe for anything.
Ah, how exciting.
So here we have the mutiny forming.
The mutiny
I was thinking about this
on the Bounty.
I was thinking about this over the last week. Everyone's heard Mutiny on the Bounty. Everyone's aware of its existence. But I think probably 90% of the population believe that the whole thing was just a story based from a play or a film. It's not actually a true story.
Good point.
Everyone knows the name
Brando.
Fletcher Christian, Captain Bligh. Everyone's aware of and familiar with those names. But
they don't realise it was a true story.
Yeah, I wonder how many people know it's historical fact.
Yeah, I suppose you're right. Most people think Sound of Music was a Hollywood creation.
Which it was, but it was based on a true story.
The Von Trapp family singers, you can't get much more based on a true story than that. She was a nun, wasn't she?
What, you mean she'd never got none?
There was a nun in the story. Julie Andrews was a nun.
I'm proud and happy to say I've never watched the fucking Sound of Music.
You are joking.
No, I'm not.
Well, even when Hannah was young.
That's not something a child would enjoy.
The Sound of Music?
Oh my God, musicals to me were like the devil. If you wanted, the only musical ever, the only musical I ever really enjoyed was the Rocky Horror Show.
God, dear Andy.
It is what it is.
You've never seen Julie Andrews in The Sound of Music?
No, I haven't. I don't give a toss about the fucking hills being alive.
You have seen it.
I have not.
You know the theme song, The Hills Are Alive.
Again, everyone on the planet has heard that fucking nonsense song. Horrible.
We'll approach it from it's a war story. It's a World War II story.
Not really. It's alluded to, but there's not much action.
What are you talking about? The bloody Nazis invade.
Well, see, I don't know because I've never seen it. It's just the whole musical thing just does it for me. It's like, oh, fuck off. I'm not going to watch a film and try and take the story seriously if they're going to start singing at each other. That's just bullshit. Anyway, let's get back to the musical On The Bounty.
Yep.
In the early hours of the 28th of April, 1789, the Bounty lay about 30 nautical miles, which is about 56 km, south of the island of Tafua. After a mostly sleepless night, Christian decided it was time to act. He understood from his discussions with Young and Stewart which crewmen were his most likely supporters and allies, and after approaching Quintal and Isaac Martin, he learned the names of several more. With the help of these men, Christian rapidly gained control of the upper deck. Those who questioned his actions were ordered to keep quiet. At about 5:15 in the morning, Christian went below, dismissed Hallett, who was sleeping on the chest containing the ship's muskets, and distributed arms to his followers before making for Bligh's cabin.
Ah, so it was an armed mutiny.
Yes.
It was actually an armed mutiny.
Yes.
All right.
3 men took hold of the captain. They tied his hands and threatened to kill him if he raised the alarm. Bligh, however, raised the alarm, calling out sufficiently loudly to warn the officers.
Help! Help! Mutiny!
Plague! Fire! Flood! The commotion woke Fryer, who saw from his cabin opposite the mutineers frog marching Bligh away. The mutineers ordered Fryer to lay down and hold his tongue, or he would be a dead man. Bligh was brought to the quarterdeck, his hands bound by a cord held by Christian, who was brandishing a bayonet. Some reports maintained that Christian had a sounding plummet hanging from his neck so that he could jump overboard and drown himself if the mutiny failed. Now, I'm guessing that a sounding plummet, I know what it is. It's like
I know what it is, but I didn't realise it was that big.
If you're using it in tidal seawater, it would have to be quite big. Otherwise, it wouldn't sink. It would just drift along with the current.
Mm.
Others who'd been awakened by the noise left their berths and joined in the general pandemonium. Now, it was unclear at this stage who were and who weren't active mutineers, but everyone was more or less making a noise, either cursing, jeering, or just shouting for the reassurance that it gave them to do so. Bligh shouted continually, demanding to be set free, sometimes addressing individuals by name and otherwise exhorting the company generally to knock Christian down. Fryer was briefly permitted on deck to speak to Christian, but then was then forced back below at bayonet point. According to Fryer, Christian told him, "I have been in hell for weeks past. Captain Bligh has brought this on himself, I tell you." Christian originally thought to cast Bligh adrift in Bounty's small jolly boat. I don't know why it's called a jolly boat, because it wouldn't be a jolly experience.
It's a model of boat, a jolly. J-O-L-L-E.
Okay. No, J-O-L-L-Y. Together with his clerk, John Samuel, and the loyalist midshipmen, Hayward and Hallett. The boat proved unseaworthy, though, so Christian ordered the launching of a larger ship's boat with a capacity of around 10.
Ooh,
however,
luxury.
Christian and his allies had overestimated the extent of the mutiny. At least half the crew on board were determined to leave with Bligh. Thus, The ship's largest boat, a 23-foot or 7-metre launch, was put into the water. During the following hours, the Loyalists collected their possessions and entered the boat. Among these was Fryer, who, with Bligh's approval, sought to stay on board in the hope, he later claimed, that he would be able to retake the ship.
So do you reckon these bods that got in with Blythe, what they wanted to do was get back to the Paradise Island and forget going home?
Bear in mind that if you were captured and found guilty of mutiny, it was a death sentence in those days. So unless you were 100% committed, you would not take your chances.
All right.
There's nothing worse, there's no worse crime at sea than mutiny.
Is that right? Murder. That's got to be worse than mutiny.
No, mutiny would get you an extra couple of years tacked on.
Really?
So, as I say, Fryer wanted to stay behind with the hopes of retaking the ship later, but Christian ordered him into the launch. Soon, the vessel was badly overloaded with more than 20 persons and still more vying for places. Christian ordered the 2 carpenter's mates, Norman and Mackintosh, and the armourer, Joseph Coleman, to return to the ship, considering their presence essential if he was to navigate the Bounty with a reduced crew. Reluctantly, they obeyed, beseeching Bligh to remember that they had remained with the ship against their will. And Bligh assured them, "Never fear, lads, I'll do you justice if I ever reach England."
Unlikely.
Yeah, I wouldn't trust him. Samuel saved the captain's journal, commission papers and purser's documents, a compass and a quadrant, but was forced to leave behind Bligh's maps and charts. 15 years of navigational work. With the 18 men who had remained loyal to Bligh, the launch was supplied with about 5 days' worth of food and water and Purcell's tool chest. Bligh mentioned in his journals that a sextant and any timekeeper was refused by the mutineers, but boatswain's mate James Morrison stated that Christian handed over his personal sextant, saying, "There, Captain Bligh, this is sufficient for every purpose, and you know this sextant to be a good one." The ship's K2 chronometer was left on the Bounty, but Peckover had his own pocket watch that Bligh used to keep time. At the last minute, the mutineers threw 4 cutlasses down into the boat. So now, of Bounty's complete complement, 44, after the deaths of Huggan and Valentine, 19 men were crowded into the launch, leaving it dangerously low in the water with only 7 inches of freeboard. The 25 men remaining on the Bounty included the committed mutineers who had taken up arms, the loyalists detained against their will, and others for whom there was no room on the launch. At around 10 o'clock, the line holding the launch to the ship was cut, and a little later, Bligh ordered a sail to be raised. Their immediate destination was the nearby island of Tafua, clearly marked on the horizon by the plume of smoke rising from its volcano.
Oh, excellent. So, in fact, it was pretty 50-50 in terms of the supporters. If 25 stayed on board, 19 left, and there was a couple who didn't want to be on the ship, it was 50-50 who actually mutinied.
Yeah, they underestimated the support. But even so, it was quite successful to this point. Bligh's plan was to find water and food on Tofua and then proceed to the nearby island of Tongatapu to get help from King Pualaho, whom he knew from his visit with Cook, in provisioning the boat for a voyage to the Dutch East Indies. Now, ashore at Tafua, there were encounters with natives who were initially friendly, but grew more menacing as time passed. On the 2nd of May, 4 days after landing, Bligh realised that an attack was imminent. He directed his men back to sea shortly before the Tafuans seized the launch's stern rope and attempted to drag it ashore. Bligh coolly shepherded the last of his shore party and their supplies into the boat, In an attempt to free the rope from its captors, the quartermaster, John Norton, leapt into the water, where he was immediately set upon and stoned to death.
Nice.
The launch escaped into the open sea, where the shaken crew reconsidered their options. A visit to Tongatapu or any other island landfall might also incur similarly violent consequences. Their best chance of salvation, Bligh reckoned, lay in sailing directly to the Dutch settlement of Kupang in Timor, using the rations presently on board. And this was a journey of some 3,500 nautical miles.
What was 5 days' supply?
Or 6,500 kilometres.
What?
Yes.
What speed did those boats go? 10 knots, if you were lucky?
No. This is the middle of the 1700s with a launch. It's called a launch. It doesn't have a motor.
No, I realise that. So 5 knots.
You wouldn't get 10 knots out of a sailboat that size.
Oh, of course, you're a bit of a sea cadet, and you would call it 5 knots then.
If you're lucky.
Call it 100. Call it 100 nautical miles a day. So that's six.
That's a lot of miles.
Is it?
A nautical mile is about
just over a mile.
2.5 kilometres, maybe.
Yeah.
2.8.
All right. Well, I'm just trying to think. It's like 100 days of travelling on 5 days of ration.
Yeah.
How's that going to work?
But don't forget forbidden fruit.
What do you mean forbidden? Oh, I see, forbidden fruit.
They've got at least one of the cabin boys on board. I bet he was looking tasty at this stage.
No, they wouldn't choose a cabin boy. He doesn't have any meat on him.
No, but they're tender. You might not get as much, but it's a lot juicier than the 94-year-old alcoholic fucking doctor who's close to death. I mean, imagine having liver, onions and bacon from the doctor's liver. No, thank you. Oh. So, yeah. So this was beyond the Endeavour Strait, and it would necessitate daily rations of, get this, 1 ounce of bread and a 1/4 pint of water for each man. And this plan was unanimously agreed. Now, to add to their woes, from the very outset of the journey, their weather was wet and stormy, with mountainous seas that constantly threatened to overwhelm the boat. When the sun did appear, Bligh noted in his daily journal that it gave us as much pleasure as a winter's day in England.
But I suppose they can collect the rainwater at least for a bit of extra drinking water.
Yeah, I guess. Depending on the state of the sea, of course. If you're being bounced up and down, you're not going to collect much water. They didn't have the same collecting orifices that we have today. Bligh endeavoured to continue his journal throughout the voyage, observing, sketching and charting as they made their way west. And to keep up morale, I would have killed him.
Same.
To keep up morale, he told stories of his prior experiences at sea. Did I tell you of the time when Captain Cook and I would imagine he would be a boring bastard at a dinner party. That reminds me of the time when Captain Cook and I... he also got...
I was going to say maybe he's going to suffer 2 mutinies.
Yeah, can you imagine? He also got the crew singing and occasionally saying prayers.
Ah, yes.
The launch made the first passage let's get my tongue working. The launch actually made the first passage by Europeans through the Fiji Islands, but they didn't dare stop because, and I rest my case, of the island's reputation for cannibalism.
Fiji.
On the 17th of May, Bligh recorded, "Our situation was miserable, always wet and suffering extreme cold without the least shelter from the weather."
So yeah, this launch didn't have a roof, did it?
No, it's an open boat. It's basically a big rowboat with a sail. A week later, when the skies cleared, birds began to appear, signalling a proximity to land. On the 28th of May, they sighted the Great Barrier Reef. And if you know Australia, then you know that that's still quite far from land, but definitely within reach.
Treacherous waters between the Great Barrier
Very
Reef and
much
the
so.
mainland.
Bligh found a navigable gap, and sailed the launch into a calm lagoon. Late that afternoon, he ran the boat ashore on a small island off the coast of northeast Australia, which he then named Restoration Island. Here, the men found oysters and berries in plentiful supply and were able to eat ravenously. Over the next 4 days, they island hopped northward within the lagoon, aware that their movements were being closely monitored by natives on the mainland.
Mm-hmm.
Strains were showing within the party, and following a heated disagreement with Purcell, Bligh grabbed a cutlass and challenged the carpenter to fight.
What?
Fryer, yeah, he's
a
lost
nutter. Bligh is a nutter.
He's got anger issues.
He does.
Fryer told Cole to arrest their captain, but he backed down after Bligh threatened to kill him if he interfered. "I shall kill you, sir." On the 2nd of June, the launch cleared Cape York, the extreme northern point of the Australian continent. Bligh turned southwest and steered through a maze of shoals, reefs, sandbanks and small islands. How they never got attacked by the local wildlife that is basically designed to kill every living person on the planet, I have no idea.
Yeah.
The route taken was not the Endeavour Strait, but a narrower southerly passage, later known as the Prince of Wales Channel. At 2000 hours that evening, they reached the open Arafura Sea, still 1,100 nautical miles or 2,000 kilometres away from Kupang. The following 8 days, they encountered some of the toughest travel of the entire journey, and by the 11th of June, most of the men were close to collapse. The very next day, though, the coast of Timor was sighted. "It is not possible for me to describe the pleasure which the blessing of the sight of this land diffused amongst us," Bligh wrote. On the 14th of June, with a makeshift Union Jack hoisted. How do you do a makeshift Union Jack? Has he got a tie-dye kit? Could someone hand me the blue? They sailed into Kupang Harbour. Now, in Kupang, Bligh reported the mutiny to the authorities, and he wrote to his wife, "Know then, my own dear Betsy, I have lost the Bounty." Nelson, the botanist, quickly succumbed to the harsh Kupang climate and died.
What?
Yeah, I don't know what the climate is there.
He'd survived in a bloody open-top launch for a couple of thousand.
I know.
And he dies once he gets to land.
And he dies once he gets to a sunny paradise. Oh, too nice. Ugh.
What an idiot.
Weak. On the 20th of August, the party departed for Batavia, now called Jakarta, as we know it.
Indonesia.
To
You've
await
been
a
there?
ship. I have. No, I haven't.
You've been to Manila?
Yes. To await a ship for Europe. The cook, Thomas Hall, died there, having been ill for weeks, probably food poisoning. Bligh obtained passages home for himself, his clerk Samuel, and his servant John Smith, and sailed on the 16th of October, 1789. 4 of the remainder, the master's mate Effingstone, the quartermaster Peter Linkletter, the butcher Robert Lamb, and the assistant surgeon Thomas Ledward, all died either in Batavia or on their journeys home.
Not good.
No, that's I mean, to survive up to that point and then just die
when you're,
when it's basically all over. Now, after the departure from the Bounty of Bligh's launch, Christian divided the personal effects of the departed loyalists among the remaining crew, and he threw all the breadfruit plants into the sea.
Oh, idiot.
That I don't know the reasoning behind that, but it seems petty.
Yes. And they could sell them.
Well, I don't know. To whom?
Whoever was going to plant them in England.
No, they weren't being planted in England. They were going to be planted in the West Indies to feed the slaves.
Oh, God. Really?
Yeah. Do you not remember what we talked about last week?
No, I can't remember the details.
Anyway, he recognised that Bligh could conceivably survive to report this mutiny, and that anyway, the non-return of the Bounty would occasion a search mission, with Tahiti as its first port of call. So Christian therefore headed the Bounty towards the small island of Tabui, some 450 nautical miles, 800 kilometres south of Tahiti. Tabui had been discovered and roughly charted by Captain Cook, no less.
Again,
he got about this Cook.
I
don't even like. I've gone right off Captain Cook. He's a busy fucker. I don't trust him. And except for a single small channel, it was entirely surrounded by a coral reef and could, Christian surmised, be easily defended against any attack from the sea.
Oh, well, there we go.
I mean, at least he's thinking tactically. The Bounty arrived at Tubay on 28th of May 1789.
So a month after the mutiny.
Yeah. The reception from the natives was hostile.
Oh, dear.
No surprise. And when a flotilla of war canoes headed for the ship, Christian used a 4-pounder gun to repel the attackers. At least a dozen of the warriors were killed and the rest scattered. Undeterred, Christian and an armed party surveyed the island and decided it would be suitable for their purposes. So, I mean, even back then, they were just imperialistic motherfuckers.
So what were their purposes with this island?
To find a safe haven, somewhere to defend, should they be discovered, and settle, basically.
Why didn't they go back to this paradise island where they all had girlfriends?
Because that would be the first place they're being looked for.
Wasn't it Elizabeth Taylor who played the...
You do not want to be living on Tahiti when the Royal Navy appear to wreak vengeance for your mutiny. But to create a permanent settlement, they needed the natives to be compliant, and they also needed the women to be compliant.
Of course.
And the most likely source for these natives and women was Tahiti, to which Bounty returned on the 6th of June. Now, to ensure the cooperation of the Tahiti chiefs, Christian concocted a story that he, Bligh, and Captain Cook were founding a new settlement in Aitutaki. Although Cook had actually been killed 10 years earlier, the use of his name ensured generous gifts of livestock and other goods. And on the 16th of June, the well-provisioned Bounty sailed back to Tabui. On board were nearly 30 Tahitian men and women, some of whom were there by deception. So they were trafficking as well in those days.
Yeah.
Fucking English, what is wrong with us? For the next 2 months, Christian and his forces struggled to establish themselves on Tabui. They began to construct a large moated enclosure called Fort George for the British King to provide a secure fortress against attack by land or sea. Christian attempted to form friendly relations with the local chiefs, but his party was not welcome. There were persistent clashes with the native population, mainly over property and women, culminating in a pitched battle in which 66 islanders were killed and many wounded. Discontent was rising amongst the Bounty Party, and Christian sensed that his authority was slipping. He called a meeting to discuss future plans and offered a free vote. 8 remained loyal to Christian, the hardcore of the active mutineers, but 16 wanted to return to Tahiti and take their chances there. Christian accepted this, and after depositing the majority at Tahiti, he would run before the wind and land upon the first island the ship drives. After what I have done, I cannot remain at Tahiti, he said. In order to flee, Bounty cut the ropes to the 2 anchors in the bay, one of which was recovered by the Pandora, while the other was rediscovered in 1957. Sorry. When Bounty returned to Tahiti on the 22nd of September, this welcome was a little bit less effusive than previously. The Tahitians had learned from the crew of a visiting British ship that the story of Cook and Bligh founding a settlement was a fabrication, and that Cook had been long dead. Christian worried that their reaction might turn violent, so he didn't stay too long. Of the 16 men who had voted to settle in Tahiti, he allowed 15 ashore, but Joseph Coleman he kept on the ship, as Christian required his skills as an armourer. That evening, Christian coaxed aboard the Bounty a party of Tahitians, mostly women, for a social gathering, and with the festivities underway, he cut the anchor ropes and the Bounty sailed away with its captive guests.
What?
Yep. So he's kidnapped, he's people trafficking, he's enslaving.
But hang on a second, there was only a crew of 2. And the Tahitians?
No. Now there's a crew of 9 left.
All right, so they came back. Okay. So they've just kidnapped a load of Tahitian women and they're taking them somewhere.
Yes, they're going to start anew. It's like the Garden of Eden all over again. Let's repopulate. I'll have you, and as I'm a Mormon, I'll have you and you. Coleman escaped by diving overboard and he reached land. Among the abducted group were 6 elderly women for whom Christian really had no use. So he put them ashore on the nearby island of Moorea. Bounty's complement now comprised 9 mutineers: Christian, Young, Quintal, Brown, Martin, John Williams, John Mills, William McCoy and John Adams, known by the crew as Alexander Smith for some reason, and 20 Polynesians, of which 14 were women.
Yeah.
The 16 sailors on Tahiti began to organise their lives. One group, led by Morrison and Tom McIntosh, began building a schooner, which they named Resolution after Cook's ship. Morrison had not been an active mutineer. Rather than waiting for recapture, he hoped to sail the vessel to the Dutch East Indies and surrender to the authorities there, hoping that such action would confirm his innocence. I would not put my hands in the fucking goodwill and trust of a bunch of naval idiots.
No.
Morrison's group maintained ship's routine and discipline, even to the extent of holding divine service each Sunday. Churchill and Matthew Thompson, on the other hand, chose to lead drunken and generally dissolute lives, which ended in the violent deaths of both. Churchill was murdered by Thompson, who was in turn killed by Churchill's native friends. Others, such as Stewart and Hayward, settled into quiet domesticity. Hayward spent most of his time studying the Tahitian language. He adopted native dress, that's you, and, in accordance with the local custom, not you, was heavily tattooed on his body.
Oh.
So what happened with Bligh, you ask? Well,
he got back to England.
He did get back to England on the 14th of March 1790. News of the mutiny had preceded him, and he was fated as a hero. In October 1790, at a formal court-martial for the loss of the Bounty, he was honourably acquitted of responsibility for the loss and was promoted to post-captain. As an adjunct to the court-martial, Bligh brought charges against Purcell for misconduct and insubordination. The former carpenter received a reprimand. "You have been a very naughty boy. Don't do it again." In November of that year, the Admiralty dispatched the frigate HMS Pandora under the captain, Edward Edwards.
Excellent. Pandora's box.
Edward Edwards. "I named this child Edward Edwards. I don't know. Can't think of anything." To capture the mutineers and return them to England to stand trial. Pandora arrived in Tahiti on the 23rd of March 1791, and within a few days, all the 14 surviving bounty men had either surrendered or been captured.
Really? Including Fletcher?
No, he wasn't there. He wasn't in Tahiti. This is why they didn't stay in Tahiti.
Of course,
He's captured all these Polynesian women
that's
and then
right,
got off to start over.
Yep, you're right.
Now, Captain Edward Edwards made no distinction between the mutineers and those who claimed they had been detained on bounty unwillingly. All of them were incarcerated in a specially constructed prison erected on Pandora's quarterdeck, dubbed Pandora's box. And that's where the expression comes from.
Is that right?
Yes. Pandora remained at Tahiti for 5 weeks.
No,
yes, it is. Because you think about it, it's called Pandora's box, and it's called Pandora's box because if you open that prison, you don't know what's going to come out. You've got mutineers and innocent people in there, and once you open that box, you don't know who is who, what is what, and you can't get them back in.
Not sure.
Pandora remained at Tahiti for 5 weeks while Edwards unsuccessfully sought information on Bounty's whereabouts. He finally set sail on the 8th of May to search for Bounty amongst the literally thousands of South Pacific islands. And apart from a few spars discovered at Palmerston Island, no traces of the fugitive vessel were found. Edwards continued the search until August, when he turned west and headed for the Dutch East Indies. One of the islands that Pandora sailed to but did not land at was Pitcairn. And had Edward checked his charts and found that this uncharted island was at the correct latitude but wrong longitude for Pitcairn Island, he could very well have fulfilled his mission by capturing the last 9 bounty mutineers.
But didn't.
No. Edward's search for the remaining mutineers ultimately proved fruitless. When passing Vanikoro on the 13th of August, Edwards observed smoke signals rising from the island. Now, single-minded in his search for the bounty and convinced that mutineers, fearful of discovery, wouldn't be advertised in their whereabouts, he ignored the smoke signals and sailed on. Walrus argues that the smoke signals were almost certainly a distress message set by survivors of the La Perouse expedition, which later evidence indicated was still alive on Vanikoro at the time, 3 years after their ships, Boussole and Astrolabe, had been foundered. Walrus is virtually certain that Edwards, whom he characterises as one of England's most ruthless, inhuman, callous and incompetent naval captains, missed his chance to become one of the heroes of maritime history by solving the mystery of the lost expedition.
So,
because he was a wanker, I am Edward Edwards. I'm not stopping there.
He didn't stand a chance with a name like that, though.
Well, he didn't do himself any favours.
They should have called him Edward Wanker Edwards. At least it would have sounded better.
Edward beat the Bishop Edwards. On the 29th of August, Pandora ran aground on the outer Great Barrier Reef because of incompetence. The men in Pandora's box were ignored as the regular crew attempted to prevent the ship from foundering. When Edwards gave the order to abandon ship, Pandora's armourer began to remove the prisoner's shackles, but the ship sank before he had finished. Hayward and 9 other prisoners escaped. 4 bounty men, George Stewart, Henry Hillbrant, Richard Skinner and John Sumner, all drowned, along with 31 of Pandora's crew. The survivors, including the 10 remaining prisoners, then embarked on an open boat journey that largely followed Bligh's course of 2 years earlier. The prisoners were still mostly kept bound. Sorry, I've got a massage. I can't see my phone. They were mostly kept bound hand and foot until they reached Kupang on the 17th of September.
Come on, Andy, focus.
Oh, it's Teresa. I shall talk to her later. The prisoners were confined for 7 weeks, at first in prison and later on a Dutch East India Company ship, before being transported to Cape Town. I don't know why they take them to South Africa. On the 5th of April 1792, that makes more sense, they embarked for England on a British warship, HMS Gorgon, and they arrived in Portsmouth on the 19th of June. So they've spent fucking years getting these guys back to England, basically. Yep. There they were transferred to the guard ship HMS Hector to await trial. The prisoners included the 3 detained loyalists, Coleman, Mackintosh and Norman, to whom Bligh had promised justice, if you remember.
Yeah.
Don't worry, lads. I shall vouch for you. You did not want to be a mutineer. The blind fiddler, Michael Byrne. I mean... when you see those films where they have a blind guy playing the fiddle on a ship, you think, really, who'd give him a job? But
sure enough,
fucking did. They fucking did. Oh, I've lost myself.
Oh dear.
Hayward, Morrison, and 4 active mutineers: Thomas Burkitt, John Millward, Thomas Ellison, and William Muspratt. Now, Captain Bligh had been given command for the HMS Providence for a second breadfruit expedition, had left England in August, and thus would not be there for the court-martial proceedings, which is not a good sign. Court-martial opened on the 12th of September on the HMS Duke in Portsmouth Harbour, with Vice Admiral Lord Hood, Commander-in-Chief of Portsmouth, presiding. Hayward's family secured him quite competent legal advisors. Of the other defendants, only Muspratt employed legal counsel. The survivors of Bligh's open boat mutiny gave evidence against their former comrades. The testimonies from Thomas Hayward and John Hallett were particularly damaging to Hayward and Morrison, who each maintained their innocence of any mutinous intention and had surrendered voluntarily to Pandora. The court did not challenge the statements of Coleman, Mackintosh, Norman and Byrne, all of whom were acquitted. So the blind fiddler got away. On the 18th of September, the 6 remaining defendants were found guilty of mutiny and were sentenced to death by hanging, with recommendations of mercy for Hayward and Morrison in consideration of various circumstances. Now, I don't know what mercy would entail. Maybe hang you slowly?
Oh, I was going to say, or shoot you quick.
Or maybe commuted to a life sentence breaking rocks.
In Australia.
Which is basically better than hanging, especially as the rocks were full of opals in those days. On the 26th of October 1792, Hayward and Morrison received royal pardons from King George III and were released. Muspratt, through his lawyer, won a stay of execution by filing a petition protesting that the court-martial rules had prevented him calling Norman and Byrne as witnesses in his defence. He was still out awaiting the outcome when Burkitt, Ellison and Millward were hanged from the yardarm of the HMS Brunswick in Portsmouth Dock on the 28th of October. Some accounts claim that the condemned trio continued to protest their innocence until the last moment, while others speak of their manly firmness that was the admiration of all. They were basically, fuck you, fuck you. Yeah.
So hang on a second, of the whole shooting match, only 3 were hanged, is that right?
So far.
Ah.
There was some unease expressed in the press, a suspicion that money had bought the lives of some, and others fell sacrifice to their poverty. Which, nothing's changed.
No.
A report that Haywood was heir to a large fortune was unfounded, nevertheless. Denning asserts that in the end, it was class or relations or patronage that made the difference. So it wasn't what you know, it's who you know. Nothing's changed again.
Yeah.
In December, Muspratt heard that he was reprieved, and on the 11th of February 1793, he too was pardoned and freed. So for most of them, there was no consequences. It was only the poor who took the fall. And everyone who had epaulets on their jackets was set free to do it again.
And do we know, did Fletcher lead a happy life on an island somewhere and died at the ripe old age of 90?
We are coming up to the aftermath now. Much of the court-martial testimony was critical of Bligh's conduct. By the time of his return to England in August 1793, following his finally successful conveyance of breadfruit to the West Indies aboard Providence, professional and public opinion had turned against him. He was snubbed by the Admiralty when he went to present his report, and he was left on half pay for 19 months before receiving his next appointment.
Mm-hmm.
In late 1794, the jurist Edward Christian, brother of Fletcher, published his appendix to the court-martial proceedings, which was said by the press to palliate the behaviour of Christian and the mutineers and to criminate Captain Bligh. Bligh's position was further undermined when the loyalist gunner Peckover confirmed that much of what was alleged in the appendix was actually true.
Mm-hmm.
Bligh commanded HMS Director at the Battle of Camperdown in October 1797 and HMS Glatton in the Battle of Copenhagen in April 1801. In 1805, while commanding HMS Warrior, he was court-martialed for using bad language to his officers and reprimanded. In 1806, he was appointed Governor of New South Wales. After 2 years, a group of army officers arrested and deposed him in the Rum Rebellion. Oh, he's been blocking rum rations again, wanker. After his return to England, Bligh was promoted to Rear Admiral, and in 1811, Vice Admiral in 1814, but he was not offered further naval appointments. But it seems to me that incompetence is rewarded.
Clearly.
In the Royal Navy in those days.
In those days, certainly sounds like it. Died.
He finally died aged 63 in December of 1817. Of the pardoned mutineers, Haywood and Morrison returned to the Navy. Haywood acquired the patronage of Hood, and by 1803, at the age of 31, he'd achieved the rank of captain. After a distinguished career, he died in 1831. Morrison became a master gunner and was eventually lost in 1807 when HMS Blenheim foundered in the Indian Ocean. Muspratt is believed to have worked as a naval steward before his death in or before 1798. The other principal participants in the court-martial, Fryer, Peckover, Coleman, Mackintosh and others, generally vanished from the public eye after the closing of the procedures. So the settlement. After leaving Tahiti on the 22nd of September 1789, Christian sailed the Bounty west in search of a safe haven. He then formed the idea of settling on Pitcairn Island to the east of Tahiti. The island had been reported in 1767, but its exact location had never been verified. After months of searching, Christian rediscovered the island on the 15th of January 1790, 188 nautical miles, or about 350 km, east of its recorded position. Now, this longitudinal error contributed to their decision to settle on Pitcairn because technically no one knew where it was.
Yep.
On arrival, the ship was unloaded and stripped of its masts and spars for use on the island. It was then set ablaze and destroyed on the 23rd of January, either as an agreed-upon precaution against discovery or as an unauthorised act by Quintal. In any case, there was no other means of escape. Pitcairn Island proved quite ideal for the mutineers, uninhabited and virtually inaccessible, with plenty of food, water and fertile land. I wonder if that's where the dodos used to live.
Uninhabited?
Yes, Pitcairn was uninhabited.
But have they still got these women on board?
Yes.
Oh, so they're together with 14 women?
Yes, that's what I said. They were looking for their own Garden of Eden to start repopulation.
Yeah.
For a while, the mutineers and the Tahitians existed peaceably. Christians settled down with Mauatawa, and a son, Thursday, October Christian, was born. I'm hoping that's his name. It sounds like a misprint. Thursday, October Christian was born, as were other children. Christian's authority as leader gradually diminished, and he became quite prone to long periods of brooding and introspection.
Ah.
And gradually, tensions and rivalries arose over the increasing extent to which the Europeans regarded the Tahitians as their property. In particular, the women, who, according to Alexander, were passed around from one husband to another.
Oh, that's not nice.
That's typical fucking power trip. I mean, they were all turning into Donald Trump at that stage. In September 1793, matters degenerated into extreme violence when several of the mutineers, possibly including Christian, Williams, Martin, Mills and Brown, were killed by Tahitians in a series of murders. Both Adams and one of the Tahitian women, whose name I'm not even going to attempt, it's got like 29 letters and not one vowel, later claimed that Christian was killed in this massacre. However, Adams' stories were inconsistent. Over the years, he also claimed that Christian had died of sickness or suicide. My God, this cat is driving me crazy. At any rate, his gravesite has never been found. According to, I'm going to give it a go, Tihu Tia Tuaona. Onoa. Oh, I don't know. We call her Tete. Christian was shot and killed from behind while in the act of clearing away some ground for a garden. The infighting continued, and by 1794, all 6 of the Tahitian men were dead, killed either by the widows of the murdered mutineers or by each other. 2 of the 4 surviving mutineers, Young and Adams, assumed leadership and secured a tenuous calm, which was disrupted by the drunkenness of McCoy and Quintal after the former distilled an alcoholic beverage from a local plant.
Oh, good man.
Trust an Englishman. What did you do with my fucking mouse? Jesus, cat. Some of the women attempted to leave the island in a makeshift boat, but they couldn't launch it successfully. I don't know if they made it themselves, in which case perhaps they had the hole at the wrong end. Who knows?
You are such a dick sometimes.
Life continued uneasily until McCoy's suicide in 1798. A year later, after Quintal threatened fresh murder and mayhem, Adams and Young killed him and were able to restore peace once more. Young himself succumbed to asthma in 1800, Adams took responsibility for the education and well-being of the 9 remaining women and 19 children. Using the ship's Bible from the Bounty, he taught literacy and Christianity, and he kept peace on the island. And this was the situation in February 1808 when the American sealer Topaz came unexpectedly upon Pitcairn, landed, and discovered the by then thriving community. Adams gave Bounty's azimuth compass and marine chronometer to Topaz's captain, Mayhew Fogler, and news of this discovery didn't reach Britain until 1810, 10 years later.
2 years later, 1808 as well. Yeah.
Yes, you're right, sorry. When it was overlooked by an admiralty that was preoccupied by the war with France.
Mm.
In 1814, 2 British warships, HMS Britain and HMS Tagus, chanced upon Pitcairn, and among those who greeted them were Thursday, October Christian.
The sun.
I mean, who the fuck came up with that idea? Thursday. No, it's Wednesday. No, Thursday. Fucking Wednesday. He displayed in his benevolent countenance all the features of an honest English face, whatever the fuck that means.
Yeah.
On shore, they found a population of 46. Don't forget they had 19 kids between them at this stage. Mainly young islanders led by Adams, upon whom the islanders' welfare was wholly dependent, according to the captain's report. After receiving Staines and Pippin's report, the Admiralty decided to take no further action. In the following years, many ships called at Pitcairn and heard Adams' various stories of the foundation of the Pitcairn settlement. Adams died in 1829, honoured as the founder and father of a community that became celebrated over the next century as an example of Victorian morality.
There you go.
So he basically formed his own cult.
Yep.
Explorer Louis Marden rediscovered the remains of the Bounty in January 1957 after spotting remains of the rudder, which had been found in 1933 by Park in Christian and is still displayed in the Fiji Museum in Suva. He persuaded his editors and writers to let him dive off the Pitcairn Island, and after several days of dangerous diving, Marden found the remains of the ship, a rudder pin, nails, a shipboat oarlock, fittings, and a Bounty anchor that he raised. Later in life, Marden wore cufflinks made of nails from the Bounty. Bit grim. He also dived to the wreck of the Pandora and left a Bounty nail with that vessel. Some of the Bounty's remains, such as the ballast stones, are still partially visible in the waters of Bounty Bay. The last of Bounty's 4-pounder cannon was recovered in 1998 by an archaeological team from
Portsmouth.
Fucking James Cook University. He just cannot leave it alone. And this was sent to the Queensland Museum in Townsville, Queensland, Australia, to be stabilised through lengthy conservation treatment via electrolysis. I don't know if it was hairy, particularly, over a period of nearly 40 months. The gun was subsequently returned to Pitcairn, where it has been placed on display in a new community hall. Over the years, many recovered Bounty artifacts have been sold by islanders as souvenirs. I bet they've sold like nearly 1 million original nails.
Exactly.
The Pitcairn project was established by a consortium of Australian academic and historical bodies to survey and document all the remaining material as part of a detailed study of the settlement's developments.
Excellent. It's a good story.
Christian Fletcher was never really brought to justice. It is a good story, and it just shows that the harsh realities of life in those days, even if you went through being mistreated by a captain, formed a mutiny, you still had to battle for survival for the rest of your life.
What I find interesting is that so much of it is so well documented.
Yeah, well,
all the names, all the
this
names.
is the thing about the Seafarer's Way, because everything is written down every day. You have to keep a log.
Yeah.
And even if you're not in the Navy anymore, it's ingrained in you as a captain to make records and keep notes, because that is where all evidence is if anything happens in the future.
Oh no, it's true.
In
the Navy.
You could feel a good man. Anyway, that's the story of the Mutiny on the Bounty. We've
well
gone
done.
over this week. We've gone well over,
God, dear.
We had to, simply because this is episode 199, and you know what that means.
That's right. And that means next week is episode 200. Come on, give me a clue.
Also, unfortunately, well, no, actually, yeah, our official birthday is in 2 days' time.
All right.
We've been at this podcast now for 4 years. But we're gonna belay that celebration until next week, when we also do our 200th episode.
Excellent idea.
So,
I might have to get a bottle of champagne. And
thanks for listening, everyone. Hope you enjoyed that. It is a really good and interesting story, the Mutiny on the Bounty. It was quite a long one.
Yeah.
But it was worth the wait, I think.
Absolutely.
And, so thanks for listening. Hope you enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Don't forget to keep an eye on us on Facebook. Tell your friends where we are.
Yep.
And even visit our Patreon, support the show, and help us keep going for another 4 years.
Oh, God, no. Please.
Or if you pay us enough, we'll stop.
Exactly.
In the meantime, have yourselves a strange week. If you're going to be a mutineer, don't go to Tahiti, because you will get nicked. It's best to find a nice little island that nobody's charted yet.
Exactly.
Although that didn't work too well for Brian Epstein.
No,
Anyway,
you're
we'll
right.
see you same time, same place next week for our 4th anniversary and our 200th show. And I can promise you now, it will be a good one. So we'll see you then. Bye for now.
Excellent. Bye for now. Bye for now.